London stands still for the elaborate final farewell to Queen Elizabeth II, the world's longest reigning monarch. More than 2,000 official guests, including President Joe Biden, Nigeria's Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, who led Nigeria's delegation, and other world leaders joined the grieving royals inside Westminster Abbey for the hour-long funeral service. Following the funeral, the Queen's coffin was escorted through London, accompanied by members of her family. King Charles III and his sons, Prince Williams and Prince Harry, were among those who marched for hours solemnly behind her coffin, as up to 1 million people lined the streets to pay their last respects to the Queen. It was a well-organized ceremony like never before watched across the world. Nigeria Today will take a look at the final farewell and its significance. I am Lydia Odijochi. Welcome to the program. With me here in the studio to analyze the final journey of Queen Elizabeth II is an international analyst on governance and nation building, Nasara Kogo Umar. Good to have you once again on the program.
It's always my honor to contribute for world peace.
All right. Also joining us via Zoom from London is a political scientist and global affairs analyst, Mpa Ojuuka. Nice to have you join us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, I will start right with you because you are there on the scene. Now, we witnessed long hours of activities from the funeral service to the final, that's the procession. And of course, we also saw presence of world leaders to pay their last respects or their last farewell. Now, tell us what the atmosphere in London looked like today.
Well, just like you rightly said, it was London was at a standstill as we mourn and finally laid to rest the long and serving monarch. And like I said during my interview the other time, there may not be anyone like her anymore for a very, very, very long time. So leaders from all over the world, including our Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, came around, Joe Biden and the rest, to mourn, to say farewell to Queen Elizabeth II late. So it was a momentous day in London, and you know, a difficult time for the people of United Kingdom, and particularly the royal family, because of what she meant for them. So at this moment, people are reflecting her achievements, and it's indescribable, the feelings of emotions, the feelings of grief, and at the same time, testaments to her selfless service to the people of United Kingdom, to the whole world, and to humanity. Wonderful, wonderful day in London.
All right, thank you. Let me come to our walking encyclopedia. I like to call you that. Now, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II died on the 8th of September, which was Thursday, and at the ripe age of 96. Since then, the burial program has been so huge, with so many activities put on hold in the UK. Now, take us through what makes this burial process so huge, catching the attention of the whole world.
You see, the tumultuous type of procession witnessed today, you know, people lined up for over 20 kilometers. You know, people slept by the roadside, some of them for up to 7 to 10 days, just because of this event. It's unprecedented in the history of 20th and 21st century. This is symbolic of the personality being celebrated. Queen Elizabeth is not just the Queen of the United Kingdom. She is indeed the Queen of the world, going by the fact that the territorial reign of Her Majesty cut across over 50% of the world. When you look at the countries she takes care, giving leadership, 15 different countries for her to go into the span of 15 different prime ministers in the UK alone, for her as well to be the head of the Commonwealth countries, 56 different countries, for her at the same time to have the most diplomatic ties with different parts of the world, more than any other leader in the world today. Talking about diplomatic relationship with about 143 countries, talking about being a patron, humanitarian patron to 2,400 different bodies across the globe. Talking about somebody who has been, the ambassador of peace. As a matter of fact, she is a God-sent messenger, because if you trace it back to the historical antecedents of, the immediate period before her accession, coming into throne, you will appreciate that she has succeeded in surmounting most of the challenges bedeviling the time of her birth and the time she got onto throne as the queen in a very mysterious way. She's a lady of different characters, the queen of the world, like I always call her. She is somebody who is a mother to all the liberated African countries and the Caribbean, the Americas, and all the other parts of the country. Because in 1939, to be precise, when the then King Edward the Eighth, when King Edward the Eighth died, two significant things were happening then. Number one, it was at the beginning of the Second World War. Number two, London was bombed. And number three, it was virtually difficult for anybody to even contemplate taking over the crown. People were running away from becoming leaders. It was just by the grace of God, some statesmen succeeded in pleading with George VI, King George VI, who was the father of Queen Elizabeth II, who reluctantly agreed to take over the destiny. But Queen Elizabeth then was a very small toddler, but she was so patriotic to the interests of global peace, restoration of sanity, and then seeing to the amicable resolution of the matter, especially the issue of the Jews, the Adolf Hitler's crusade against the Jews. If you remember, in 1952, the first humanitarian group that she accepted to become the patron globally was the Jewish Christian group, International Jewish Christian Association, as a means trying to, midwife peace in between the two major religions of the world. And then that time, Queen Elizabeth now said that she offered herself to be in the military service. Many people did not know that she was in the military service. At the age of about 18, 19, she enrolled into the military service. The parents did all they could to stop her, but she said no, she wanted to dedicate her life to that service. Then 2 years thereafter, at the Commonwealth Summit in Durban, South Africa, she represented the father, and she made an announcement there that if by any act of God's will she became on the throne, she will dedicate the entirety of her life to the service of humanity, to the global peace, harmony, and tranquility. And then there she was. 2 years thereafter, she became the queen, and that was her pledge. And she succeeded in translating her words into action for a period of over 70 years stewardship. She succeeded in becoming the #1 leader, celebrated leader in the 20th and the 21st century of our contemporary world.
Thank you very much. Now, Mpaoju, that was quite a huge event, the whole procession so elaborately planned. But one thing that stood out was the organization and the hours of procession with the elderly, like King Charles III himself, and others going through this whole process. What did you make out of this?
Well, it's quite obvious. People are looking at her achievements. And for me personally, I feel what makes her is exceptional is the humanitarian part of her life. So she has been able to take the United Kingdom and the entire British Empire to where they belong. And looking at, when she became the queen at the age of 25, 26, to be able to carry the responsibility in a society dominated by men at that point in time, then we cannot but say that she's totally exceptional, and a resemblance of strength and character, and the desire for equality, the desire for humanity, the desire for concern. Remember, she's the head of the Commonwealth of Nations, and she has, throughout her reign, supported and projected the image of the Commonwealth, trying to make humanity love each other, trying to set apart United Kingdom from why in relationship with others, make people, for people and other nations to borrow from the peace and achievements of the entire British Empire. So it's a totally, I wouldn't, you may not be able to dissect the whole process, but it was carefully and well planned, detailed, because that is befitting for a queen like her, well deserved for all that he has achieved during her reign of 70 years. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful woman of substance and excellence. And the United Kingdom, we are proud of her. We are proud of what she's been, and people are mourning and crying for the loss. And at the same time, they feel fulfilled because she actually took United Kingdom and the Commonwealth to another level. And we are also looking forward to King Charles III. Like he said to us, he said, I'm going to follow the footsteps of my mom, and with your support, I will be able to also carry on the selfless service which she gave to the United Kingdom,
Yes.
which she gave to the world,
She
which she gave to
definitely lived up to her words. She backed it up with action, definitely. Now, taking a look at the royalty behind the whole burial process, you can tell that it's not just about her position. That is the position of the queen. But royalty and tradition still hold sway among the British.
Yes.
What lessons can African communities learn from,
Yes,
from this?
you see, when you look at the turbulent period Queen Elizabeth took over as the Queen of the United Kingdom, it was such a time when most of the countries that the king then was the head of state were struggling for liberation, struggling to get independence against the strings of the crown. Queen Elizabeth succeeded by adopting modernity into the royalty. I remember very well in 1969, for example, that was the first time when she allowed documentary program to be carried into the palace. Everything about the royalty was documented and then transmitted all over the world. That was really highly commendable. People look at her as an epitome of regal civilization then. And then secondly, she in 2011, for example, visited Northern Ireland, which was the first time, in trying to extend the olive branch of peace, trying to bring about reconciliation, amity, and peace with its immediate neighbor. Then, during the period of the decolonization, she was the one that championed the liberation of all the colonial countries, bearing in mind that Britain had more colonies than any other country in the world. And then she was able to, at the same time, during the period after the Second World War, during the Cold War period, she was able to serve as the #1 counselor in between the West and the Eastern Bloc of the world, trying to make London the headquarters of the political settlement of tensions at that time. Okay. So when you look at it, and at the same time, all the kind of things, for example, she was the first monarch to address the the parliamentarians in Britain. She addressed them, and then one important thing she has succeeded in achieving is that she ended up becoming the sovereign, because any legislation has to be sanctioned by the Queen. If it's not sanctioned by the Queen, it's not regarded as a law in the United Kingdom.
Okay, we'll take a break now. Watch a report put together by Uche Ugochukwu on the burial program of late Queen Elizabeth II. Stay with us.
King Charles III led a somber procession behind his mother's coffin from Westminster Hall to the Abbey. As the Queen's coffin entered Westminster Abbey, the building in which she got married and crowned Queen 70 years ago, the choir sang lines which have been used at every state funeral since the early 18th century. The Dean of Westminster, who led the service, expressed gratitude to the congregation of about 2,000 people, including world leaders and royalty.
People of loving service are rare in any walk of life. Leaders of loving service are still rarer. But in all cases, those who serve will be loved and remembered when those who cling to power and privileges are long forgotten.
The Queen's coffin proceeded to Wellington Arch at London's Hyde Park corner to the solemn toll of Big Ben for a more intimate committal service at Windsor Castle. A smaller scale event held in Westminster, attended by a smaller congregation, which will lead to the Queen's burial after a private family service, which will be more intimate. All the processions were earlier witnessed by a large crowd of world leaders, royals, and well-wishers.
Welcome back. This is Nigeria Today, and we're discussing the final farewell to late Queen Elizabeth II. Still with me is me, Nasara Kogo Umar, an international analyst on governance and nation building. And via Zoom from London is Umpa Ojuka, a political scientist and global affairs analyst. Okay, staying with you, Umpa Oju, the precious crown, what happens to it now?
Say that again?
The precious crown, the crown, what happens to it now? The Queen's crown.
Well, Prince Charles is now the king. He's been coronated as our king, King Charles III. So by tradition, he takes over the mantle of leadership of the United Kingdom, the Commonwealth of Nations, the Church of England. But the expectation is quite high,
Exactly.
because it's really a big shoe to put in your legs, looking at what his mom, late Queen Elizabeth II, achieved, and it was a long-serving achievement of spanning a period of 70 years. So the expectation for Charles, I don't really know, but he just to build. What we expect is that he's going to build on the success and achievements of her mom, because what he's achieved, I will tell you, may never be paralleled during our lifetime. So we just hope that through the grace of God, that Charles will step comfortably into those shoes, and then we will be able to sustain the achievements of his late mother, and give the world peace, offer the world humanity, offer the world excellence, offer the love, offer the world care, which were above all the major achievements that her mom was able to attain during her lifetime. So the expectation is quite high.
All right.
And but you cannot take it away from him. He's well deserving. He's the heir to the throne. He is King Charles III, and he's the King of England, the United Kingdom. He is the head of the Commonwealth of Nations, and he has taken over the throne. That is the way it is, and it's a long tradition that is sacrosanct and must always be respected. So we are hopeful that he's going to follow the footsteps of his mom.
We sure do hope so. We sure do hope so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the days,
Now,
coming days and weeks.
there were about 499 world leaders and about 200 countries that were represented right there.
Yes.
Now, even when Vice President Osinbajo gave his tribute, he described the Queen as a unifying factor globally.
Yes.
What's your take on this?
Yes, we are going to miss the wisest counselor in the world diplomacy, in the world of diplomacy. Because right now, similar events to what happened in 1939 when King Edward VIII died, similar happenings are being replicated now as she is exiting the world. That time, that was the beginning of the World War. Now we are experiencing this issue of the Western powers against Russia, which is synonymous to that. Secondly, that time countries were struggling for liberation to gain themselves independent of the crown. Now there are countries among the 15 countries under the sovereign governance of the Queen. For example, talking about New Zealand, talking about Australia, talking about Canada. There are some countries now that are struggling to get liberated out of the crown's control. And again, another thing that is very, very symbolic was that at that time when there were a series of negotiations at Berlin, now it is happening today when the UN General Assembly's 77th session is open, where the major cry was against the domination by the UN 15 Security Council members. In other words, countries are struggling for liberation. That time there was a dislocation of the world economy. Now we are seeing seeming happening of a world economic recession, especially in the UK when during this period of general strike due to inflation, due to high cost of living and other things, due to shortage of supply of gas from the eastern end of the world, Her Majesty the Queen has passed away. So the only difference is that that time Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth was only 13 years. And now His Majesty the King Charles III is above 70 years. 73. I believe he must have been well groomed for the challenge, owing to the fact that for over a quarter of the century he has been the one going into emissaries as a diplomatic envoy representing Her Majesty the Queen. So he must have been well groomed. And then most importantly, the fact that UK system is run is a system. It's not about individual. It's a system. It's a system that entrenches quintessential value in the dignity of history, character, tradition, and culture. So they are respecting the culture, they are respecting the tradition. Like I said earlier on, every legislation passed, it must be sanctioned by the Queen, or now the King, or else it is not a law as far as the unwritten constitution of the UK is concerned. So I don't see any problem whatsoever with him. He is well groomed and he is well matured age-wise and experience-wise to handle whatever challenge that will come.
We'll now conclude this program by saying, may her soul rest in peace.
Amen.
Well, this is where we stop today. We wish the Queen eternal rest. And I'd like to also appreciate you, Nasara Kugu Umar, always ever ready to come here in the studio, international analyst on governance and nation building. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you very much.
We also appreciate your insight, Mpa Oju Uka, political scientist and global affairs analyst. Thank you for joining us via Zoom from London. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
To you, our viewers, we thank you for your company. You can also watch this episode and other ones on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. I'm Lydia Ojiji. Thank you for watching.